I have been a longtime critic of the National Rifle Association. The chronology of videos and statements throughout the years is out there for you to find. I think that it speaks for itself, and I continue to protest attending the National Rifle Association annual meeting every single year because of their behavior. And we've all gotten the marketing calls and messages and mail and all that sort of stuff. And I have also been contacted by members of the board of directors of the National Rifle Association asking, hey, what can we do? And I give them the same answer, whether it's the marketing person or whether it's one of the board of directors. And I say, you have to demonstrate that you are with the Second Amendment movement and that you are keyed in to the issues of the day and that you're out there actually doing something. And what that looks like for me is that you guys need to go out there and mount a successful challenge to the National Firearms Act. I'm not asking for the whole thing to be ripped out by the root all at once. That would be probably unrealistic, but I want you to get some kind of win. Get rid of some portion of the National Firearms Act, because we know that it's unconstitutional. I want to see you guys out there fighting it, and I want you guys to win. Once you do that, we can have a conversation. Well, boys and girls, the NRA might just do that. They have petitioned for certiorari to the Supreme Court, challenging the National Firearms Act on Second Amendment grounds on its face. And guess who is challenging this? You guessed it. The most Second Amendment Department of Justice that has ever existed. Self-proclaimed, of course. That bar is set so low that I'm going to have to bend down. I can't quite reach all the way down there to where they actually are on the Second Amendment, but they claim to be the most pro-Second Amendment Department of Justice ever to exist, and they've been doing a pretty good job stinking the room up on that front. And I want to tell you what Pam Bondi and her cronies have been peddling in front of the Supreme Court. Just because you carry a gun or a knife or pepper spray or taser, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, does not mean that you are insured to come out of that situation 100% uninjured, or other people for that matter. So it is, I think, my duty to remind you that you should be carrying medical equipment in your vehicles, on your person, and you should have multiple kits in your house and all that sort of stuff. And my one-stop shop for all things medical is Medical Gear Outfitters. We have a discount code with those folks that you should use to great effect to get that stuff at a reasonable rate so you guys can get yourself squared away. Special thanks to Medical Gear Outfitters for making today's video possible. Now look, there are lots of things that this administration is doing that I agree with and I voted for.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. They're going to be like dead.
Based. Man, I can't express to you how much I like waking up every morning to stuff like that. But what I do not appreciate is when some of the folks that have been put in positions of power do not have the principles that we were told that were going to be exercised. Just because you agree with one part of what your government is doing doesn't mean that you have to agree with the whole kit and caboodle. That's what we call holding your government accountable. Voicing dissent in areas for improvement is a vital part of a representative republic. For instance, to the reply brief that the NRA just filed in the Rush case, asking for certiorari in front of the Supreme Court. To be clear and for context, this is the National Rifle Association quoting what the Department of Justice is arguing. The Second Amendment does not protect those weapons not typically possessed by law-abiding citizens for lawful purposes, such as short-barreled shotguns, and that this limitation is fairly supported by the historical tradition of prohibiting the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons. Heller. So, short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, suppressors, etc., not used for lawful purposes. I only own like a whole bunch of them for lawful purposes. There are over 800,000 of them on the registry, short-barreled rifles specifically, not counting short-barreled shotguns, not used for lawful purposes. Let's continue. Petitioner argues that the analysis is outdated because such weapons are in common use today, but cites no evidence establishing any material change in the use of short-barrel rifles or short-barreled shotguns since this court decided Miller, or its reaffirming decision in Heller. Translation, hey, you need to recheck your data because there are a whole bunch of people that are using these for lawful purposes in the United States. They must be simultaneously dangerous and unusual. Again, quoting the DOJ, American legislatures have long imposed special taxes on arms that are especially susceptible to criminal misuse. For instance, the 19th century legislature taxed weapons such as dueling pistols, sword canes, Bowie knives, Arkansas toothpicks, and dirks. Similarly, many states have long regulated the size of firearms. For example, many states banned pocket pistols. Pocket pistols? That holds up to today. Pistols of small size, which are not borne as arms, but which are easily and ordinarily carried concealed. We're literally talking about national concealed carry reciprocity right now. The NFA resembles those historical laws in both how and why the regulation burdens a law-abiding citizen's right to armed self-defense. Like its historical precursors, the provision at issue here regulates the size of firearms, but does not prohibit any class of firearms altogether. And significantly, because short-barreled rifles combine high destructive power with easy concealability, they are especially susceptible to criminal misuse. Bullshit. The statistics don't bear that out. The Department of Justice goes on to cite a couple historical examples from when? 40, 50 years after the ratification of the Second Amendment, outside the historical tradition. Where? In slave-owning states. They were doing it for what reason? To keep a particular class of people from bearing arms. The Department of Justice is literally citing racist arguments. We've said this before. We said this 1,000 times. All gun control is built on racist ideology. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the National Rifle Association has been stinking up the room for decades now. And they've been getting hammered online for it. Rightfully so. I'm going to continue to hammer them online. But I will give credit where credit is due. This is a move in the right direction. I'm not telling you to go out and support the National Rifle Association today. We reward actions on the merit. We reward winners. So National Rifle Association, keep pushing. I like what you've written here. I like where you're going. Bring it over the finish line, and we'll have a conversation about whether you guys can come back or not. The Department of Justice, on the other hand, real bad look. This isn't the first instance. We've been doing this for 10 months at this point in time. It's what we call a pattern of behavior, folks. And they can sit up there, stand up there, and parade Harmeet Dillon out there so that they can beat their chest and say, oh, look how pro-Second Amendment we are, when in reality, their actions really don't bear that out. Real bad look, DOJ. Real bad look. That's what I got for you guys today. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And remember that any comments, likes, shares, all that sort of stuff helps with the algorithm. It helps spread this message around to people who want to hear it, need to hear it, and all that stuff. And it's the only thing that's really working these days. So I really appreciate your guys' support. It really helps move the needle here at the channel. And I can tell when you guys are active and you guys are doing it, because it's plain as day. The numbers are there. When you get behind it, we go places. So I thank you very much for playing with all them buttons.